My husband falls for my cousin at first sight while still married to me. They conspire to make me fall from grace. I end up with a ruined reputation and family. I can't handle the devastation, so I decide to drag them to hell with me as we're on the way to get the divorce finalized. Unexpectedly, all three of us are reborn. As soon as we open our eyes, my husband asks me for a divorce so he can be with my cousin. They immediately get together and leave the country. Meanwhile, I remain and further my medical studies. I work diligently. 6 years later, my ex-husband has turned into an internationally renowned artist, thanks to my cousin's help. Each of his paintings sells for astronomical prices, and he's lauded by many. On the other hand, I'm still working at the hospital and saving lives. A family gathering brings us three back together. It looks like life has treated him well as he holds my cousin close and mocks me contemptuously. However, he flies off the handle when he learns I'm about to marry someone else. How can you get together with someone else when all I did was make a dumb mistake? Most of my family had not arrived when I showed up at the private club. Staking a quiet corner, I turned on my laptop to study a complex medical case. With the patient's condition worsening to a critical point, I had to come up with the best surgery plan as soon as possible. I was still deep in my research and thoughts when Simon Ziegler and Yasmin Sawyer arrived at the club. The family immediately rose from their seats when they saw the couple enter and swarmed them. They lauded Simon and Yasmin with praise, exclaiming, "Yasmin is so lucky to have married such a talented young man. What an accomplishment for someone your age to become an overseas sensation. Simon, is it true that the Art Association invited you to show your work at the upcoming art exhibition? Simon, how marvelous. You've done our family a great honor. Simon, my son is quite a fan. He's interested in art and sees you as an inspiration. Could you give him a few pointers when you have the time?" Yasmin blinked and looped her arm through Simon's, grinning. "There's no need for such formalities. We're family, and Simon would be happy to guide the young one in his artistic endeavors. Tell him to call Simon for advice whenever he wants." That was enough to set the relatives abuzz as they fawned over Simon and Yasmin, hoping that whatever distant kinship between them could help pave a better future for their children. Simon lifted his chin slightly as the sycophants continued praising him, enjoying the attention. Having finished my work, I pulled out my earphones and yawned. Everyone in the lounge heard me and turned to look at me in surprise. "What's Olivia Langston doing here? I thought she hated such gatherings," someone groused under their breath, loud enough to draw Simon's attention. His features were edged with arrogance as he narrowed his eyes at the person who spoke. "Has Olivia been missing out on family gatherings the last few years?" The person nodded, and Simon sneered. "Simon and I were reborn 6 years ago. On the day we got our marriage license from the courthouse and went to see our family," he charged toward Yasmin and threw his arms around her. He then declared his love for her before everyone. She had broken down in tears as if having just survived a great war. After that, Simon demanded that we divorce and confessed that Yasmin was his true love. Everyone's jaw dropped at the sudden turn of events. And these were the same people who had shown up here at the private club. "Olivia's working at City Hospital now. She juggles between day and night shifts, so she never shows up at our gatherings. There's no telling why she chose today of all days to show her face. She probably came to get Simon's attention after being humiliated 6 years ago. Simon has made it big time as an artist, and Yasmin is his manager. They make a golden couple, if not a match made in heaven. Olivia must be out of her mind if she thinks she can rekindle old flames with him." Simon was indifferent to the remarks as he pulled Yasmin into his arms. "That's all in the past. Yasmin is the love of my life." A hush fell upon the crowd. There was no point in bringing up Simon and Olivia's past now that he and Yasmin were married and in love. I gave him a cursory glance before turning to the waiter and ordering myself a drink. As I sipped my fresh squeezed orange juice, I prayed that my parents would show up soon and make the important announcement. I had a shift to cover at the hospital. However, Yasmin seemed intent on ruining my peace. Her hips swayed as she slithered up to me and picked up a lock of my hair. "Olive, you need a good spa day. Your hair is as dry as hay from all the late nights." Everyone's gazes immediately fell on me. A few of the elders seized the chance to give me a talking to. One of them chided, "I don't know why Olive decided to become an ER doctor. Of all the professions she could choose, she just had to pick one that paid her little to nothing and wear her down with work. It's no wonder she's still single even though she's pushing 30. Someone sighed in disappointment. "No wonder she hasn't shown her face at family gatherings in the last few years. She hasn't made anything of herself." I met Yasmin's condescending gaze before carefully appraising her and Simon. Her dark hair had been twisted into a classic updo, and she wore a cashmere designer coat. She was also adorned with select pieces of high-end jewelry. Everything about her screamed luxury and wealth. As for Simon, he donned a suit from the same collection as Yasmin's coat and wore only a wedding band on his ring finger. However, something about his stoic demeanor and typical indifference made him look like the archetypal scion from a romance novel. It was no wonder they were heralded as the golden couple. Now that I had taken a closer look, I could see they were a good match. I rubbed my throbbing temples and tried to put some distance between me and Yasmin. "Are you done yapping, Yasmin? If you are, would you mind backing off? Your cheap perfume is giving me a headache." Yasmin's face darkened, but before she could speak, Simon valiantly came to her defense. "Cut the crappy attitude, Olivia. Yasmin's only worried about you." I frowned, growing annoyed, but I leashed my temper out of consideration for that day's occasion. "I'm not giving her any attitude. I've had a long day at work, and I'm too worn out to make small talk with either of you. So, could you do me a favor and just back off?" Simon scowled at this. I didn't blame him. He was so used to being put on a pedestal that he probably thought his life was far better than mine. Knowing him, he expected me to be jealous of him for having everything he ever wanted. My nonchalance had thrown him off his game. Yasmin sensed Simon's aggravation and quickly interjected to placate him. Honey, we're at a family gathering today. No picking fights with Olivia. We should be more understanding. After all, she must still be holding a grudge after the incident 6 years ago. Simon's features softened when he heard this. He stroked Yasmin's hair as he said indulgently, "You're my better half, Yasmin. You've always been such a considerate angel to everyone." He turned to me and sneered, "It looks like you're still as stubborn and obnoxious as before, Olivia. Perhaps things might have been different for us if you had learned to be more gentle and tender." My mind went blank at Simon's words. In our past lives, he and I had met on our travels. We got to know each other better after that, and it was only natural for us to become traveling buddies before officially going steady. For the first few years of our relationship, we were happy, but things changed after we got our marriage license. Our marriage was a celebratory occasion, so we had to announce it. As such, we held a party at a hotel and invited all our family and friends. Yasmin was fashionably late that day and showed up in a striking red dress. Simon had gone still the moment he laid eyes on Yasmin, not that I paid that any heed. However, I began to notice small behavioral changes on his part. He was always distracted, and at some point, he moved out of our shared bedroom. My female intuition told me that something must have happened to bring about this sudden shift in his demeanor, but I refused to listen to it. After all, Simon and I shared the same values, and our chemistry was solid. I was sure that he wouldn't cheat on me. However, Simon started coming home late more often and was always sneaking glances at his phone. My heart wanted to believe that he wasn't cheating, but the voice of reason in my head said otherwise. One night, I came home from work to find Simon and Yasmin tightly embracing outside our home.